Good morning and good afternoon. Hello, my name is Eric Danoff and I'm the Director of Demand Generation at SalesScreen. I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy day today to join our webinar on the 8 steps to sales competition success. We have an educational session planned for you today, and we hope to have some fun along the way because sales competitions, they're supposed to be fun. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping notes to share. All attendees are in listen and view only mode, and today's session is being recorded. Today's webinar will include a Q&A session at the end of the presentation with Remy, but at any time you may ask a question during today's webinar. To ask a question, you're going to see the Q&A button on your Zoom toolbar. Just click on that button, type in your question, and then click send. I'll get to read the question on your behalf, and we'll make sure we try to get through all of those before the day is done. Also, we'll be sharing some links in the chat window, so definitely look out for those. And lastly, we will be running some Zoom polls so we can actually hear from you all, because this shouldn't just be one way with just Remy and myself. So I'm going to run a quick icebreaker poll to make sure you can hear us and so you can know what to expect when we run polls later on. So now this poll is probably very relevant for all of us today, considering many of us are still working remotely. And I do hope you answer honestly, because it will help us better understand who is participating and listening in today. So I'm going to go ahead and push out a poll right now. And you should be getting a blinking notification in your Zoom toolbar right now. So let's go ahead and launch that poll. So here we go, guys. Hand on heart, are you wearing pajamas or comfy pants right now? The answers are no, back in the office, dress for success, 100% yes. This is great, guys. Keep it up. Want to hear from all of you. All right, let's give it a few more seconds. Let's see, we got almost getting like a 80% participation. Wonderful. Let's see if we got a few more. No. All right, I'm gonna end the poll right now and share those results. So guess what? If you can see the result, it will be also be in your Zoom toolbar. It looks like business on top, pajamas on the bottom. Good, that's what you gotta look on the screen like that. So thanks everyone for participating in that one. At this time, I would like to introduce our speaker for today's event, Remy Morgan, Senior Vice President of Sales over at SalesScreen. And just who you guys should all know, he is wearing pants today.
I actually am.
Good.
Hi guys, nice to meet you.
So Remy will be sharing the pitfalls and best practices we identified and gleaned from over 10,000 competitions run on our platform and the steps that we internally follow during every one of our contests. So welcome, Remy. So glad to have you join us today.
Thanks. I speak about this every day in every meeting I am in, so it's finally good to get the audience I feel I deserve. So looking forward to this session today, guys.
Great. So to kick off today's webinar, Remy and I thought we would run another Zoom poll to hear from you in the audience as to what are your biggest pain points to running effective sales competitions. So please note that I'm going to pull up that poll in about 2 seconds. So give me 1 moment. This is actually a multiple choice poll, so you can pick more than one answer. And we're going to start that right now. So pulling it up. And I think what we'd like is probably a little music to help with this. Great, responses are slowly coming in. Okay, 5 more seconds, and I think we can then close it. All right, so let's end it now. And so we're going to share some results. There's some interesting things here, Remy, so let's share these. The #1 reason why the biggest pinpoints for running effective competition from our audience is running the same competition over and over again. With #2 about prizes and awards types don't motivate everybody. So I think, Remy, this is a perfect segue for you to take it from here and give some more context. So take it away.
Thanks. We've teed it up well here. We gave you the options we wanted you to answer, so it's pretty straightforward, but it's familiar. And let's look at the 5 top reasons your sales competition suck, to be blunt. And number 1 is poor visibility that we see. Reps can't compete if they can't easily see what's happening. And especially in a role without a tool like SalesScreen, this requires a lot of work from you guys and girls, sales managers. So visualizing the sales competition through Excel spreadsheets, Salesforce reports, and Slack or Teams or email or whatever you do once or twice a day or even a week just isn't enough and isn't going to motivate your reps. And it becomes boring for the reps at the end. So that's number 1. Second one is traditional format. And this is a painful one, but this is just how it is. So most sales competition are designed to fail. We motivate the top 20% performers every time because we're competing on who can make the most call today, who can book the most meetings this week, and who can close the most revenue this month or this quarter. And it's going to motivate the same people every time. And in the end, this demotivates your middle 60% performers because they know when the competition starts that they're most likely not going to win. So why bother? And thirdly, it is random and impersonal prices. And I've done this a million times. I guess you have as well. But you run competitions and like I have to give away something, and you give away that bottle of red wine to the French guy who has his own wine basement, or you give away that flat screen TV in the 5th competition in a row. And yeah, doesn't really work, does it? So it's super tricky, but it's super important. We use our own personal preferences. So because I'm into golf, I give away golf balls, but that doesn't necessarily motivate my team. So it just doesn't make it worthwhile for the reps to give their all in this competition when they know that the prices, it's not that important to me. And this is what you guys answered in the poll, running the same competition over and over again. And I think the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And it's the same with sales competitions. When we do most revenue booked in a month, and we do that competition 3 months in a row, we're not going to motivate and create the same excitement in month 3 as we did in month 1. And we did this was the first thing we did after the pandemic. We started doing daily sales competitions. And one time I created the same competitions 2 days in a row, who can call the most? And day 2, it was terrible compared to day 1. So make sure that we do different stuff and we don't make it boring for the people competing. And last but not least, misaligned metrics and time frame. So we're typically competing on end of funnel metrics. So typically your so if we're competing on end of funnel metrics versus the early stage metrics, so end of funnel is typically your sales, your early stage metrics is probably your calls or your meetings. Requires different formats and different durations. So if your sales cycle is 60 days long, you can't run a revenue competition closing most deals in 5 days. It's just not gonna work. It's gonna be boring and tire your reps. So that's the hard hitting facts, Eric.
Excellent. So, well, now we know the reasons, why competitions fail. I think the reason why people are here today is to hear the steps, how to make them successful. So how about we go ahead and now actually dive into those 8 steps. So let's take it away from there.
Yep. So we're doing 2 and 2. So I'm going to start with number 1, naturally, is find the gaps. And this is this is the first thing I do every time I run a competition. I start looking at my dashboards, my reports, whatever, and I try to figure out in my funnel metrics, where are we hurting now? Is it pipeline? Okay, which metrics impacts our pipeline the most? It's probably meetings, it's the calls, it's the emails, it's the general outreach. And figure out, when you look at these dashboards and reports, what's hurting now and what's going to hurt in a month or two when the quarter is closing or the year is closing. In general, figure out what you need to grow. So don't do that revenue competition every time, because in the end, everybody needs revenue. But figure out where in your funnel are you hurting the most right now, or where you're going to hurt. So do that gap analysis, find the gaps. Takes you 10 to 20 minutes if you have the right tools, and focus on some specific metrics. And second, if you go back, refine your metrics based on this initial analysis. Identify the metrics that your reps can influence, because running competitions on stuff and metrics your salespeople can't influence is not going to give them anything. And make sure that the metrics are influenceable within the time frame you want to compete. So if you want a short competition period, say that you have 3 days to compete, because your CRO, he says we have to get this number up. Okay, you know that the only thing you can do in a 3-day period is probably the early stage metrics, your calls, your emails, your meetings. Focus on those 3 metrics. If it's a longer competition period, you want to do something for a month or a quarter, late stage metrics is the deal. So proposals, offers, pushing stuff into the later stage of your pipeline, and the deals, the closed won business. If it's hard to pick one specific metric, create a point system. Every call made, 1 point, every meeting booked, 10 points, every deal closed, 50 points, for example. Then number 3, timing is everything. And this is cool because we analyze a lot of data, and our data tells us this: short is sweet. Competitions shorter than 4 days see an average increase of 92.3% versus 44.1%. So more than a double on competitions shorter than 4 days out of the 5,000 competitions that we've evaluated in this situation. So keep it short, try to keep it below 4 days if possible, because it's easier for people to be able to focus on one thing, just drilling out the calls or booking the meetings or closing the deals for a short time frame. Secondly, set the parameters, which is how are you competing? Who's participating? Is it an individual competition? Is it team against team? Are you creating a custom team for this competition where an SDR and an AE is competing to another SDR and an AE? What kind of competition are you running? Is it any contribution matters? Is it a top performer competition? Is it to build morale or for fun? Or is it to ramp new hires? So we have a lot of different templates, but one of the most popular competitions you could run is typically Wheel of Fortune. And you could do that with Post-it notes that you put in a bowl if you're in the office. Every time they book a meeting, put a Post-it note with your name in it. And when the competition is over, pick one random one. So one meeting could make it happen. And like every team is different, every individual is different. Figure out what works for your team and change it as you go. Then next up, 5, up the ante. And this is a big one. If you look at sports all over, they do this every time they compete. But they teardrop prices. So don't give away prices to just number 1, number 2, and number 3. Make sure that top 50% performers are being incentivized. So typically giveaways, if you want to do this with coins or points or money for that sake, first place gets 100, second place gets 80, 50, 20, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, for example. And this makes it worthwhile for the 7th best performer to actually fight to become 5th best. And if we can create that mentality in your sales organization, that's gonna create massive growth, because they're not gonna give up, because it's not necessarily about winning, it's about outperforming yourself and as many of your colleagues as possible. And then naturally, ready, set, go. Besides great prices, the number one thing sales rep care about is acknowledgement. It's about getting that pat on their shoulder saying, good job. And when you run competitions, this is a thing that's like, we spend so much time prepping, but make sure that everybody is notified before the competition starts on email, Slack, or a Teams message. If you have SalesScreen, in the SalesScreen feed, to make sure that everybody understands the different competitions you're running. Why are we running them? That's important for a lot of people. What kind of metrics are we competing on? What are we aiming for? What are we looking to grow? And what can you win? And make sure that everybody is aligned and ready to go. And then give them some love. And this is a big one, because if you look at sales competitions, we set them off and then we let them run. And this is something I learned from one of my customers, and they did this every time. If they did a month-long competition or a day-long competition, they gathered halfway through. So if they did 8-hour blitzes, they gathered after 4 hours, every single participant in the competition, and they looked at the results so far. They hyped up the people being in the lead. They hyped up the people that's closing in and running up, and they shared best practices. What are you saying in your calls to get that many meetings? How can we help each other? And suddenly this became a team effort, not an individual competition, but they pushed each other, and we gave people a reason to finish strong. So that's a super big one.
And Remy, this is Eric. I really want to chime in on this one, because I love this one, because it's also about just giving recognition to the efforts of the way of participating. And, not everybody is motivated the exact same way. And so like myself might not be rewarded by motivated by rewards, but I am very much rewarded by being acknowledged by leaders like yourself, as well as my teammates. And like, I especially saw this, when we just did a company-wide blitz, and I did my own outbound. And like, even though I didn't win and I had no expectations that I would, I was definitely motivated to participate, because I knew that you and our leaders would go ahead and recognize all of us who have participated. And so like, that was really exciting to me. And I just thought I'd share that. And I think we can talk a little bit more about that company-wide blitz maybe in the Q&A. But I think this dovetails really nicely into the last step. And I think you can take us home from there.
Yeah, and last step is, so we've done the kickoff, we've done the halftime talk now on 6 and 7, and the last step is it's getting into the, in sports fashion, getting into the locker and make sure that everybody understands what an amazing job we did. Because if you run competitions in this format, you're going to see amazing results. So try to understand the data. What have we actually been able to do? Make sure that everybody is recognized for their contribution. Who grew the most? Who did the most calls? Who booked the most meetings? Who closed the most revenue? And give credit to people. Summarize. Bring them all in. We typically do it in an all hands meeting every Friday, 3 p.m. That's the way we end the week, on a high note, so that everybody wants to come back. And hand out the prizes in public so that everybody else can see, wow, Eric just got that new flat screen TV, or coins maybe. And put a spotlight on all the great accomplishment, and make people want to compete again soon. And that's what it's all about. And like, we remember the first 5 things. We look at the data, we figure out the rules, and we said that we do everything, but then we forget to boost and motivate and celebrate. especially now, naturally, with people working hybrid and remote and everything, that's even more difficult, but that's as important as it has ever been. So for sure, remember that.
Great. Well, thank you, Remy. That was a lot of great information and that our audience can now apply with their own teams or with an organization. And I also really, really like number 8, because that's the time when we all get to come back together. We all get to, as you said, debrief and see all the accomplishments from everybody. And it, in their most recent one, just seeing my colleagues go ahead and win prizes, definitely was exciting for me. As well. So at this time, everybody, guess what? It's time for Q&A. So if you have any questions for Remy and or myself, please go ahead and type them into the Q&A window in your Zoom toolbar, and we will try to address them. So let's go ahead and actually start with one that I actually had for you, Remy. And it has had to do with based off some of our internal research, because I think this would also be kind of interesting to people as well, since we're talking about the length of competitions. What is the worst day to start a competition? And what is the best day to start a competition? And why is that?
Yeah, good question. Our data, so what we do, we have our analysis department that works continuously investigating into the performance of sales competitions. And what we see is that, surprisingly, Mondays are the worst day to start competition. And that's typically the day we sales leaders, we want to start competitions because we want to start the week great. But not all people are Monday people. So hot tips, start competitions on Wednesdays and make them last for the rest of the week. That's going to give you, based on our analysis of continuous competition, give you the best results. So start Wednesdays. And why is it like that? I think there's some people that just loves Mondays. That's hyper motivated every single day. Most people aren't. And Wednesdays, they're ready, probably.
So let's actually take a question from the audience on this one. So I think this is probably a question that's a little bit more specific to our platform, but we might as well answer it anyway. This question is from Terry. And Terry asks, is there a way to run multiple one-on-one competitions at once? He has a second office and 3 of their members challenge 3 of ours. So we can might as well go ahead and take that question.
Yeah, for sure. Is there a way to run multiple one-on-one competitions at once? Yes, you can do as many competitions at the same time as possible. Depends on if you're talking about battles or competitions. On battles, there's a limitation to 3 battles per rep or per user, but competitions has no limitation. And as a manager, you can set up as many one-on-one competitions as you want. And just recently, we launched a bracket competition. So if you don't have that activated in your SalesScreen account yet, let us know in the support chat and we'll activate that for you. But that's a competition that you go from initial stage, quarterfinal, semifinal, really, like for us Europeans, it's the Champions League of sales. So that works.
So excellent. Thank you about that, Remy. So here's another one, which is a little bit different. So this is from Nick in our audience. Hey guys, thanks for the presentation. How would you manage the duration? Do you recommend sprint competitions with smaller prizes or longer competitions with better prizes? And
that's, again, that goes back to one of these, 2 of the 8 steps. So the prices, if you teardrop coins, they can earn coins throughout their entirety as salespeople at your end. So do multiple small competitions, because these 3-month-long competitions, what usually happens is you start up here on week 1, and then week 2 to 11, you're down here. And on week 11, they give their everything because that's how people are. So instead of doing that, run 3 to 6 different 1-day, 2-day, 3-day with different format, individual, team, company, department, and mix it up. It's gonna probably be cheaper for you as a manager in the price ways, and you're going to get so much more out of it. That's what our data tells us, at least.
Right. So another one, and this is I think a really good one, because it definitely talks about that 80-20 that you were talking about before, Remy, the middle and lower performers. So it's questions from Neil. What is the best way to motivate lower or the lowest performers?
It depends on what you're selling in your team, actually, but it depends on what the pain is. But in general, I would create competitions that gives them, you either do typically the lottery competition. So as long as they're contributing, they get something and they might win and put a nice price. So say if you're doing this on meetings, book one meeting, you get one ticket, you might actually win. And activity drives activity, right? So when they start and they feel success, and make sure that you catch them red-handed. So when they book that meeting, you're the first to tell. When you're doing that halftime talk, make sure that you put that person in the spotlight, building them up for what they just did. Look at the meeting that Tom just booked. That's amazing. And make them want more, because as human beings, we crave attention. And when we first have it, we have the attention and we know how this feels, we want more of it. So give it to them and give them a chance to win. So Wheel of Fortune, if you want to do it manually, it's every time you book a meeting, write your name on a piece of paper, put it in a bowl, and you pick random stuff at the end.
Great. Okay, I have a few more that keep coming in here. This is great. So I have one here from an anonymous attendee. How do you see companies improving activities when running competitions? That could be specific about us, I guess, or how do we see, our own activities?
So there's naturally, we have overall data that says that if you do one-day blitzes, our customers see 53.7% increase in whatever they measure. If you measure coffee cups consumed, you're going to see a 53.7% increase. If you measure calls, if you measure meetings, whatever you do. And for us specifically, we have actually way better numbers than that because we follow this formula. So last time we did a one-day blitz, we saw 789% more meetings booked that one day that compared to an average day in that month. So it's about defining focus, and it's about really harnessing the potential in sales competitions and making something out of it.
Remy, I'm going to piggyback on that one. Could you share with our audience a little bit more of that company-wide blitz? Because that actually wasn't just specific to our sales team and our SDR team. That was actually a competition that we ran company-wide. And why did we do it? And why it was so effective about it? Because I really enjoyed participating in it.
Yeah, and most people do, because we love recognition. You don't have to be a salesperson to love recognition. But in the end, what we looked at as a leadership team is we're a 20-person strong sales team or a revenue team, but our organization is 60 people. So we know that each and every one of our employees has some contact, some person they could reach out to. So we created a simple competition, making it easy for non-salespeople to participate. So we gave them, it's a points competition where they got 1 point for an email intro sent to a potential prospect with the sales rep in that email, and 4 points for booking an actual meeting. And naturally, as we spoke about earlier, we did a Wheel of Fortune competition so that every contribution matters. So if you made one intro, you could actually win. And for introvert developers, we even got them to send intros to friends and family and people they have worked with before. And that was one of the main reasons we had that 789% increase that one day, is because we got the entire team to participate.
Great. It was a fun day, I'll say that much. And it gave me I live and breathe in marketing, but it made me appreciate what you guys do on a daily basis. I'll say that much. And I did actually get a one lead and introduction after the fact. So even though there was a blitz, it still happened after the fact, guys. So there is residual effects from these competitions.
That's a good point. Good point. And we saw that actually from that one competition where we booked 38 meetings that one day, new meetings, and the following week we doubled our average. So we did 200% better the following week because we've initiated so many different conversations that one day.
Great. So we got a few more coming in here. Let's see, and we still got some time, so let's keep going. What competition is best for an outbound sales team versus an inside sales team? Let's take that on.
I'm guessing that outbound sales teams and inside sales teams have different goals, different processes. So I would do what I usually do is in these teams, there's so many different people. So I try to run maybe 3 to 4 competitions at the same time to motivate different types of behaviors and people. So I would do a custom competition where we set custom targets. So one for outbound, one for inbound. Then I would create a competition where I pair one inbound with an outbound and let them fight for each other, because some people, they don't necessarily care about the competition, but they care about not leaving people behind, right? Then I would do a competition for all the top performers, so who can just book the most or close the most. Then I would do an overall competition with different milestones saying, if you close 10 deals, we do this. If you close 20, we do this. If you close 30, we go out and have dinner. And if you close 40, we'll go to Las Vegas or whatever.
Great. So I think this is a very specific, probably more to our platform, Remy. But the answer I'm pretty sure is yes. But I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway. This comes from IPEC in the audience. Is there on SalesScreen in our platform? Is there a way to measure the linearity of participation among competitors? Meaning, can we tell whether they enter the results on the last day or evenly throughout the competition? And I think this probably goes back to the act of sandbagging.
For sure. And we actually have one competition that's kind of cool. It's a time competition. So it's about holding the lead. So the competition is about adding your sales. So and the entire competition goes on who can hold the lead the longest. And the winner is the one that has most hours or days in duration. So the earlier you add your sales, the longer you're going to be able to hold it, right? So that's the competition that makes people want to do this fast. And naturally, you can do points competition where you give 10 points for an activity day 1 and 5 points for the same activity day 2 and 3 points day 3 and 1 point day 4. So multiple ways to solve that.
All right, here is one more from Mariami. Hi guys, thanks for the great tips so far. Do you have any tips on how to improve the visibility of how a competition is going? And is there a more modern or fun way to do this apart from the traditional examples you mentioned earlier? This is.
Do you want to buy SalesScreen? Because that's the number one tip for sure. Now, but it depends on naturally your situation. But SalesScreen is a great way to do that. It's going to create transparency on all platforms, on their mobile apps, on the web dashboard. And if you're in the office, like I am today, you can have a TV screen where you can visualize the competitions in real time. And we call it Sales Surround, which is a way to basically surround people with what's important right now. And that's what competitions is all about in the end, creating focus on those specific metrics for that given time period.
All right. I guess I will then take the last question, Remy, because we have now gone through all of them. If there is only one or two things that our audience should take away from today's presentation, what would it be? Even though that we give them 8, one or two.
I'll give you 2. Number 1, it has to be fun. If it's not fun, it's not a competition, right? Make it worthwhile for every team member. We're all different individuals, so find ways to motivate each and every one of them in different ways. So that's why I usually don't do one competition at a time. I do multiple at a time to motivate everybody. Secondly, is transparency. Make it visible, inform and engage the team with updates constantly. Catch people red-handed doing a great job, give them pats on the back, have that halftime talk, celebrate every single small win, as well as the big win at the end.
Great. That was wonderful. Thank you very much, Remy. I think we can start to wrap up now. So, hey, that's all we've got for you today. Before we sign off, I'd love to tell you about an upcoming webinar with one of our clients. Join Demand Base's Kevin Rooney, Senior Director of Sales Development, and SalesScreen Dana Mirabella, VP of Global Customer Success, as they discuss tips and tricks on how to keep your SDR team motivated, engaged, and most importantly, as Remy said, having fun. And if you join, you maybe even get a strategy or two on how to catch those big fish. So right now, I am going to be sharing a link so you can sign up for that. It is in the chat window. If you look below, it should be probably blinking right now. If it isn't, just let us know. So with that, if you would like to connect with Remy or myself, feel free to reach out to us via LinkedIn and or email. You can reach Remy at morgan@salescreen.com, or you can reach out to myself at eric.danoff@salescreen.com. And if you cannot wait to speak with one of our sales gamification experts on how we run our competitions on our platform, I set up a time to speak with us. I'm sharing another link in the chat window for you to go ahead and schedule a time to chat with us. So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you signing in, and we hope you learned how to create a fun and engaging sales competitions that triggers competitive and playful emotions of your entire sales team. We hope to see you again on a future webinar. Thank you very much, Remy. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye.